It's that time again. It's the Burky and the Badger Board Game Babble Show. It's going to get wild. It's going to get wacky. It might even get a little zany. We're going to talk about board games and the board game industry. And, you know, we might talk about anything else we want to talk about. Hey, hey, hey! It's the Burky and the Badger, live from Studio A.
And Studio A+.
A+. A minus. I never got A's. I got A minuses. But I'd say A because it made it sound better.
I got C's.
C's, Charlie. Yeah.
Yeah, which just goes to show, I'm an average Charlie.
Badger! How the heck are you?
I'm still breathing. Yay! I'm okay, thank you very much. Very busy, as you are. And how are you?
The same. It's so good, though, to be back on the show. It's been a little while because we've both been crazy busy doing all the things we're going to talk about. But it's so good to be back on the show, right?
It's so good to be podcasting again and being able to talk to someone intelligent than me. Because I'm a C and you're an A minus.
I've always said that I'm more than intelligent.
Yeah, but a B is an A minus, isn't it? Really, B for Burky.
You were like the class. Everybody wanted you to help them study, right?
Class clown, yeah. They all wanted to learn slapstick from me. You did well. You taught them well. I taught them well. A few people got their crayons stuck up their noses and had to go to hospital. But
so you helped Jim Carrey with some of his bits.
It is surprising sometimes you watch a film with a character like Jim Carrey or another actor, and you go, "My God, I did that." I licked a frozen pole.
Oh yeah, like I'm Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah. But anyway, off subject. Welcome to another board game babble. And in this show, we're going to quickly wrap up on what's been going on in Babblot, what we've been up to for the past couple of months, because you haven't seen us. And then we're going to do a roundup of rumors going around in things that make the king go,
the king is going, about
yes.
things.
And then we're going to do our good, bad, and ugly section, which is our first impression segment about new games that we've played, because we've actually now been playing games.
Right?
Before going into our Babble subject about how the world has changed. And how
the new world, baby.
Yeah, we're living in a new world of, chickenless Kentucky Fried Chickens and petrol-less cars.
It's all tofu chicken now.
Yeah.
It's tofu chicken.
Yeah, all sandwiches with Marmite. Even if you don't like Marmite, you either love it or you hate it.
I don't even know what it is.
Only us Australians and English people know what Marmite is.
But I love it. I do love it.
Oh, no, Australians, they have Vegemite. That's what that's called. Vegemite.
Vegemite. All right, put a few Vegemites on the barbie.
It's a yeast extract, which is beefy, kind of tasty. But, yeah. I like Marmite and Bovril, so...
Well, there you go.
There you go. That's got nothing to do with board games.
So, most of what we talk about has nothing to do with it, but just has little inklings, right?
Yeah.
This is mostly meaningless nonsense, so I don't know why anybody would even listen to it. And I don't actually think anybody is, but we amuse ourselves.
That's why it's called a babble. And not a face-pulling competition.
That's it. So, tell us what's been happening in Babblot. What's been going in your neck of the woods?
In my neck of the woods, my neck has been stuck here. I don't know if you can see, but let's show everyone. There you go. Everyone can see now. There's this thing with white and black things on it.
Oh.
And there's another one over there, and there's some guitars on the wall and some drums. Yep.
Did you get that from Beethoven?
No, I actually got it from Jim Carrey. No, that make no sense whatsoever.
That was a reach. Yep, that was a reach.
Yeah, so I have been, excuse me, I have been up to my ears with music and sound effects for Sirenscape, plus other projects. I have been working a lot with Lucky Duck. Essen is coming.
Essen, yeah.
They have some new games coming at Essen. They're starting a kids line of board games. And so I've been working on sound effects for those games. I've also been working very hard on the 7th Citadel soundtrack, which has unfortunately been postponed to the end of next year, which is good in a way because it gives me more time to ferment more sound and more music, and get, and maybe make the soundtrack a bit longer, because that was one of the things that people didn't like about the 7th contract soundtrack. The 7th Continent soundtrack is that it was too short, although people loved it because it was addictive and they just walk away singing that song in the back of their head. So yeah, busy with Sirenscape.
How big a project is that? I mean, how many hours are you putting into a project like that?
Well, I'm probably sunk about excuse me, about 100 hours in already.
Wow.
To produce about I've got about an hour and 15 minutes of sound, which is environment and music.
Wow.
But I'm just estimating here because I'm not on the clock when I'm doing that. That's I do that when I'm not on the clock with Sirenscape. In Sirenscape, I'm on the clock because there is brand new adventures coming out all the time. Like recently, the Wild Beyond the Witchlight, which has just come out, and I had to quickly get the book and quickly make sound sets and create the world and create music to create kind of like a film ambience for when you're playing the game. And so, yeah, I am up to my ears. I've got Cthulhu Adventure doing as well. There's a Cobalt Press doing a Kickstarter at the end of this month for a Midgard role-playing game. You like Midgard, don't you?
Yeah, I do like Midgard.
Yes. So I am no time for playing. I am working very, very hard. And Kabuki, hello.
I just was pulling up the chat here, and yeah, Kabuki Kid is in Babblot. So great to have you back and talk. Even though we're not talking, we kind of talking because she says stuff on the chat thing, but it's not audible, so it's not actually talking, but it is communication.
Yeah, it is indeed.
Yes, it is.
Good to see you, Kabuki. Thank you for joining us.
Yes.
I know Lance isn't here, but I said Lance. That's
Lance.
Oh, that's so English. Lance,
you silly bird.
Yeah, so that's what I've been up to. I am 24 hours, 7 days a week, music, sound effects. And when I'm not doing that, I am with the family.
Taking care of kids. Yeah, gotcha.
And growing vegetables.
Yeah. But I tell you, this year in Minnesota, we had some really significant drought, which hasn't happened. Now, this last month, moisture levels have come back up, but we have a large garden. I mean, it's 75 feet by 100 feet. We have tomatoes and beets and carrots and beans and peppers and onions and jalapeno peppers and green peppers and sweet banana peppers, 2 varieties of tomatoes, and we can salsa. And when I say we, I mean my wife, because we're one, so that I get to include in it. But she does all the work, but I'm involved. Mm-hmm. So I give moral support and I eat it. And I eat lots of it. Copious amounts of salsa. Yeah,
that's a good idea.
Awesome.
I could have made salsa.
Yeah, it's fantastic. She makes the best salsa in the world. She cans beets and beans, and we freeze some, and lots of squashes. We have so much this year. We were watering the garden, but the heat was so good this year. We just had such an amazing garden, and I know you love to do that. We've been doing a lot of projects this year. We're going to talk about some things later, but we've been so busy at Game Toppers doing our fulfillment of our Wave 1 fulfillment. And we're actually mostly all done with Wave 1 fulfillment. And much of that we were able to do ahead of time. And in fact, a lot of the mats that are considered Wave 2 for November delivery, we're actually getting those out right now, about 3 to 4 weeks ahead of time in the United States anyway. And then we'll be moving on towards other parts of the world. But that's been super great, but it's a crazy amount of work. And I have, because of all of that and everything that we're doing, managing all of that, we didn't have product that we could bring to market. So we didn't do Gencon and Origins. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But I've been home doing some renovation projects. We built our home in 1998. So we've actually lived in our home for 23 years. And actually this October, crazy, right? Can't believe it. And things were starting to look dated and old and a little dungy, dirty, like we replaced the carpet in our bedroom, which was very nice to do. And then I've been tearing up the entire floor in the basement. So we had this old carpet. When we built the house, we were kind of at low end of the budget. And it was like, okay, we're going to buy some cheapo carpet just to keep the dust down. And we glued it on the concrete in the basement. And it's shown its wear with 4 children growing up in 23 years. You can only imagine, right?
Yeah.
So we yanked all that carpet out and we started putting in an all wood floor, and I'm almost done. And we've moved the game room.
Dun, dun,
So
dun.
we're going to do a cool video of the new game room and the renovation down there. But it's pretty sweet. I'm pretty happy with it. It's all coming together within another week or so. Hopefully I'll be done with that. But this old man has been on his knees and praying for you, Barry. Praying for I've been on my knees doing all of this work. And I tell you what, these old you know how old I am?
Yeah. I'm not allowed to tell people, though. It's in our contract.
So
no,
that's a good question. How old is Burky? How old is that guy? Yeah. Hey, I see Don Lyles is here. Woohoo! Good to see you, buddy. Anyway, that'd be a good poll. How old is Burky? But anyway, getting down there doing all that work is like, I tell you, it's kicking my butt. This old man wakes up a little bit sore.
Oh, Don's not afraid to say. I didn't say it.
61.
I'd be breaking our contract if I said that.
I'm older than that. Maybe not. Could be. I have 4 children. You know, my oldest child is 32 years old.
Yeah. Do the
I
math.
have 5 grandkids. And this is the great news. And then we'll move on to the next segment. Is my daughter, Maddie, had her second baby. And she had a baby boy, Matthew, 6 pounds, 14 ounces, and just the most adorable little guy. He looks a lot like Maddie did when she was little. She had all this black hair and just super, super happy for Hannah and Maddie. Hannah has 3 children, and she's got one now in the cooker. So
that's a stupid place to put a baby. Unless, especially if it's a jelly baby, they melt.
No,
and then they're really hard to scrape off.
In her tummy, okay?
Oh.
It's an aphorism. Now, maybe it's not an aphorism. It's an abbreviation. No, it's not an abbreviation. It's something else. I told you I was number 1 in my class. It's in her tummy, okay?
Yeah. Okay.
Quit bugging me. And so in March, she's going to have a baby. So that'll be 4 grandkids from Hannah, 2 grandkids from Maddie. Josiah's married. Who knows when things are going to happen there. So that tells you something about my age.
32 plus 20, 52.
but we're super happy. It's
Cool.
super great to see our kids prospering and having a families of their own. So with that, I think it's time to move on to our sponsor, Arcane Wonders.
Yay!
Babble. Arcane Wonders, Arcane Wonders, all the great games for you. Arcane Wonders, Arcane Wonders,
So
all the great games for you. You think they'll buy that?
possibly. So what's new from Arcane Wonders? I see that they're going to be at Essen this year.
They're going to be at Essen in just a couple of weeks, but I actually had opportunity to talk to Brian Pope, the owner, and Robert Geislinger, the sales manager we've had on the show several times. And Gencon, we're going to talk about that in a few minutes and the things that go make the king go But at Gencon, they offered up a game that was called Picture Perfect. They also had copies of Furnace, and then they have the remake of Land, Air, and Sea with all the little critters. And they just went bananas. Furnace was a big hit. I believe that they sold out of them. Furnace is like an engine building card game. I haven't actually played that yet. It's brand new. He didn't even have enough copies to send out to reviewers. So that's how hot on the table that one is. And then Picture Perfect actually won the Game of the Year for Gen Con, or Game of the Show, Game of the Show was Picture Perfect. And I don't know a whole lot about it. It has some really fantastic artwork and some unique standees where you're actually trying to set them up in different things and taking snapshots. I believe that you interact with your phone on that, and that's not a good description of the game, but you could go to arcanewonders.com. You can check that out. Supposedly they're going to have some copies of Picture Perfect at Essen, and they were just at Origins as well. And they said that they had a fantastic show showing off those new games. Of course, their games like Smartphone Inc., Aquatica are doing extremely well. As you can see behind me, we have lots of Arcane Wonder games, Four Gardens, and just one of my favorite publishers. It's been that way since they first came out with Sheriff of Nottingham, and just think all the world of Arcane Wonders. So check them out at arcanewonders.com.
Yeah, I see that they have a new Onitama coming out as well.
Oh yes, they got that new system where you can actually play teams. I actually got to play test that a little bit, and then it's evolved even from there. I'm hearing that that's really exciting.
Yeah. I was shocked. It's like I looked at the Essen list on Board Game Geek, and I saw that there's a new Onitama, and I was like, "Ooh, cool!" That's something that my daughter and I like to play every now and again. So
yeah, Robert's going to have quite a setup at Essen. He might even have a couple game toppers there, so that's going to be exciting.
Is Robert going to be there?
Robert's going to be there. He's going to have a team there at Essen, and they're going to do it up.
I'm going to have to go and say hello.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to move on to our segment, the new segment, Things That Make You Go,
This is the Board Game News, where King Burky reflects on some of the current things happening in the board game industry. Some may be good, some may be bad, but they're all things that made our king go,
Oh, there's something going on in my head. We are in a goofy mood today. I can tell you that. We're just excited to be back on the show. So getting a little squirrely is okay, right?
Squirrely, yeah.
Things that make me go,
Yeah, so what's been making you go, sire?
Yes, well, it's actually was Gencon and Origins. Origins is one of my favorite board game conventions. I really wanted to attend, but given the current situation with shipping and all the things that we were doing, I just knew that it wouldn't be. And likewise, Gencon and Origins, they got moved from their summer schedule where I have my staff that usually help me with my summer conventions. And so moving around all that and not even being sure that we were going to have conventions this year. So at the beginning of the year, I actually figured we wouldn't be having any conventions this year. So when they started making a move to have that opportunity, and we didn't know what the pandemic climate was going to be like. We didn't know what the state and local restrictions would be, if it would even be possible. And so in our business plan, we had actually kind of written it off that, hey, we're not going to be able to do this. Well, because of when we had to launch our Kickstarter, the timing of everything, it just wasn't prudent. Just wouldn't be prudent. Barbara wouldn't do it. I'm not going to do it. So
they're coming to get you, Barbara.
We decided that it would be better not to go, but there was a longing in my heart to go. I have not missed a Gen Con in 8 years.
Boom.
Yeah, boom. Origins, likewise, we have a 3-year sponsorship where Game Toppers has all of these fantastic game mats for the entire boardroom area, the CAD. It's fantastic. They look so awesome. They're yellow and they've got crits, the old logo, and it just totally upgraded that gaming section. And so we have a big presence there, and I really missed that. We were planning on going. I called John Stacy at Origins and just said, hey, is it possible that we could not come this year and push our sponsorship out? I want to be there, but it's just not wise for me. I don't have the staff. I just don't have the product. And he was so gracious. He said, absolutely, Burky, we value you guys, and we're no problem. So anyway, we weren't there. Kabuki Kid did get it. See, she must have some timeline reference with me. She got the little impression. I don't know if Barry got the impression.
No, I didn't. But did you get my impression?
No. What was your impression?
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
That is an impression. It's impressionable. It made an impression on me, but it wasn't a good impression. Mine wasn't a good impression either.
Mine was pretty good.
Yours was good, probably.
Yeah.
Somebody else will have to identify that if it was good or not. But the charity board game, Chris Goblet is in the house too. Wow, wonderful. And yes, Chris, I really miss going to Origins. I really missed. And yet we had several publishers that were there that had Game Toppers, Capstone Games, Arcane Wonders, Yellow Games, Funnel Tunnel Collective had a topper there, and Thunderworks Games. But we generally have 20 to 30 publishers that have Game Toppers in all their show kits. But about half of the publishers were at Gen Con and at Origins that are normally there. A lot of the big companies like Asmodee were not there. Cool Mini or Not was not there. Companies that had larger footprints like AEG and Renegade Game Studios had lesser footprints where they were not demoing games as much. They had more sales-related booths. And so the thing that made me go, about Gen Con and Origins is like, are these going to be good conventions? A lot of the companies pulled out. What is the environment going to be like with everybody coming back together? It's been a long time since we got back together. Now there's restrictions. People had to wear masks. There's vaccinations. There's all kinds of stuff going on in that realm. There's just, I was uncertain. How's this going to feel? Are people going to feel comfortable connecting again? Is it going to be a free-for-all? I didn't know. I really was thinking that I don't think this show's going to go that great. Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. Guess what? From everything I heard, I was wrong. I was wrong. Record that. That's a drop.
That's a drop, is it? Okay. I'm going to have to program that into my sequencer. Just push a key in and
he was wrong.
I was wrong.
I talked to the crew. Ryan Bruns used to be the president at Mayday Games and now is starting his own company. and also has been helping Ben at Floodgate Games. He helped me at the show hand out some of our business cards. We have a giveaway where you can win a free Game Topper system. And he went to all of the publishers and hand out cards, took pictures of the booths and things like that. So we had a slight representation of Game Toppers there. But so people were able to demo games on the Game Toppers and whatnot. But when I talked to Ryan, he said Gencon people were just having a blast getting back together. He felt like the community, even though the numbers were significantly down, Gencon usually reports like 75,000 turnstile visitors. That really equates from what most people think, I think about 60,000 people. This year they reported 35,000 turnstile, but I think that equated to about 20,000 people. You guys can let me know what you feel. Chris, you were there. You probably would know how many actual people you felt like were there. I don't know if anybody else was there that's in the chat right now. But what I was told is people could move around. They felt so much better. They didn't have backpacks and strollers, kicking them in the heels all the time. They were able to go places and actually do things without feeling constrained. And there was still lots of games and lots of opportunities. They didn't have to wait in line to get to take a look at a game. One thing that really surprised me, I was told by Arcane Wonders that their sales were 4 times what they have ever been at a Gen Con. The best Gen Con they've ever had with half the people, half the publishers.
Yeah, incredible. But there's more, if there's less demoing, there's nothing else to do but to buy. It's like, going into a restaurant, you can't play table tennis. You have to buy something to eat. But I'm looking forward to that experience next week when I go to Essen. I can imagine it's going to be a lot more sparse in space realms. I thought they were going to actually close some halls off, but actually they've got all the halls open. I was very, very surprised. So social distancing is still going to be a big thing because I've been told by Bombaics, who I'm going to be working with, that they're not allowed to have as many tables as they wanted to. Otherwise, my wife would have come along and demoed as well, which would have been a cool thing. But I'm looking forward to meeting people and talking to people and playing a little bit on the side. And, it's been too long.
It has been.
But I'm happy with all the regulations, so fingers crossed I'll have something to talk about next time.
Yeah, Chris and Kabuki are talking a few things in the chat, but Chris mentions that there's a nice area for exhibitors to eat. The way they had the hall set up. Origins, when I saw the pictures, that surprised me a little. I'm told that there was probably only about 6,000 to 7,000 people when there's generally around 16,000 to 20,000.
Yeah.
But they pretty much opened up the whole thing. So they didn't have a delineation from the game area and the regular hall. It looked kind of like a great big gymnasium, which it felt a little odd to me, actually. And people enjoyed the fact that they got to go play games because they had all this area free space and they were separated nicely and had all kinds of space. But I haven't heard how the vendors felt about Origins yet. It just happened here, in fact, this last weekend. So I haven't actually gotten any feedback on that. But it looked like people were having a good time and glad to be back. But the numbers significantly lowered.
Yeah. It's good if you're not. It's good if you're claustrophobic. It's a good time to go.
Well,
and I'm claustrophobic.
Well, that was the thing that made me go, It was very open. The video table balance was well done. Yeah, Chris says definitely smaller at Origins, but it was very open. The video game tabletop balance was very well done. I'm not. What do he means by video?
Video games.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it's good to see people starting to get back to some kind of normalcy, right?
Yeah.
And speaking of that, I think that's what's going to bring us right into our next segment, the good, the not so bad and ugly. We've actually been able to play some games and get back to a little bit of normality, right?
You know what I think? I think that
The good, the not so bad. Wait for it. And the ugly.
and maybe cheeseburgers shouldn't be served with burgers in them. So that's what I think.
You're so clever. You're so clever.
No, I'm not. I'm ad-libbing here. I haven't got custard pie to throw in anyone's face.
Oh, this whole thing is ad lib. You know, I just can't believe anybody would want to listen to this nonsense.
Yeah, I won't look at the script then.
What script are you talking about?
The one that says now do good, not so bad, and ugly.
Oh, that script.
Yeah, we can just talk about games that we recently played and why we played them. Yes. So that's what this section is about. This is about games that we've never played before and we played for the first time, maybe one or two times for the first time. And we're going to give our first impressions of the game, whether it's a good game, something that we will be eager to play again, or it's not so bad, which is a game that if someone says we might play it, we might just say maybe tomorrow. Or if it's an ugly game, something that we're just going to totally ignore and imagine that we never actually played in our life.
So tell me a little bit before we get into the games we've actually played. Have you actually been able to get some gaming group together now a little bit more?
I have no. A lot of the times that I've played during this pandemic has been with the wife and my daughter, and it's normally titles that we love playing, like Stone Age, like Ticket to Ride. You know, the family type of games. We played a bit of Agricola the other day, which was nice because I was able to add the cards now because I can read the French on them and understand what they're doing. But yeah, the gaming group is non-existent. I've been lucky. I have a few good friends. I have my good friend Guillaume, who I see once or twice a month, and we play games. I have a new friend called Nicola. Nicola. Oh, I can't say his second name now. But anyway, he is one of the designers in a board game which is coming to Kickstarter next year. And he has family in the region and he lives in Paris. So he comes every now and again with his brother and we play games. And then last week, I had a friend of mine who I've done a lot of work with Bombaics and Monolith, David Bartello, come down. And he was demoing a prototype with me because he's starting his own publishing company, which is cool. So yeah, so not really gaming groups, but I have these sporadic moments where I actually play games with board game experts, so to speak.
Yeah, we kind of have the same thing. You know, it's you've got some friends that you can kind of connect with, but our former gaming group that we used to get together weekly, excuse me, we actually were able to reconnect with a lot of those folks because they were starting to where they could get out now. And we've actually had a couple nights where we were able to do that. And so we're hoping that at least 2 nights a month we'll be able to do that. Maybe more. We're going to schedule it on Tuesday nights and see who can all come. But we're hoping that at least twice a month. And that's a big improvement because with with the pandemic, of course, and with everybody's schedules related to that, and then us with our businesses and like your sound stuff prospering, there just hasn't been enough bandwidth to play games. And frankly, it had kind of gotten me down. I'm seeing all these games and I want to play them and I love this hobby and I'm not playing games and it's starting to bug me a little bit, you know? And so getting back to play the couple of the games that we're going to talk about, I mean, it was really something, probably like way maybe some of the people felt about reconnecting at the conventions.
Okay.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us one of the first games you and Jesse's in the house. He's part of the gaming, and it was great to get back and play games with Jesse.
He's going to spoil us now. He's going to tell us what games you've played, aren't you, Jesse?
Yeah, he will know. He will know one of them. He might know two, actually. No, he'll know one of them.
Go on then. Tell us a game before Jesse spills the beans.
Okay, I'll tell you a game. Well, this is an older game. This is a Spiel des Jahres winner game. This is a game that I have a personal story about when the first great big convention that I ever went to.
Wow. So 8 years plus one. So 2010. So Spiel des Jahres in 2010.
Now, this one, I think that won the Spiel at a different, probably older than that. It was out of print for the longest time. And then I was able to get the big box edition of it. This game has area control in it. Mm-hmm. It has a cube tower in it. Now, you got some clues?
Shogun?
No, but that's a good guess. I love Shogun, by the way, the one with the cube tower. I like the old Milton Bradley one too, but I really love that Shogun from Queen Games. No, this game is called
Dune.
El Grande.
Aha.
Big box.
Wow.
And it is a big box.
It is.
My head can fit in there.
But your beard, no.
But we didn't play with some of the expansions. In the big box, it has Kings and Intrigue 2, and Kings and Intrigue 3. We haven't done that yet. But one thing that's so cool about this game is there's different regions that you're doing this area control, and you're able to get a first place, a second place, and sometimes a third place. There's a very interesting mechanism for like tiebreakers. If you have two people that have the same amount of people in there, and then you have the El Grande that's going to give you an extra count. There's a tracker on the side that allows you to get more influence. And then there's these cards that allow you to do different things. I'm not going to give a deep review of El Grande. It's an older game, Spiel des Jahres winning game. It's produced by Z-Man. I think you can still get it now. You're seeing Barry have some pictures there if you're watching this live on the YouTube. I think the thing that was interesting, before I go on and talk about that anymore, what do you think I think this game is?
I think it's an old game, which one is Spiel des Jahres. That's what I think you think this game is. Yeah,
I do think that. I could be wrong about it, but
I think you think this game is good. I mean, it's got to be good. It's a Spiel des Jahres. It's old, and it still piques your interest for you to buy it and play it for the first time some 8-10 years later.
Yes, and I think Philip Millman's here. Hey, Philip, so good to see you. I've been playing baseball highlights on my iPad, and I always think of you. I think I got to really get good so I can rematch that guy. Love Philip. I've had a long time friendship with him. So, yeah, I feel like the first time that I was introduced to El Grande was 8 years ago when we went to Gencon with my son and his best friend, Trevor, and his dad. And we were in the gaming hall. Tom Vassell comes over to us the second night. We met him the first night, and I didn't know who Tom Vassell was. We were playing Nothing Personal, had this great connection for a moment with him. The next night he's there, and he sees us. He says, "Hey, you guys looking for a game?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, well, what would be good 5 players? And we said, whatever you think. And he goes, how about El Grande? And we played El Grande, and we had such an awesome time playing that game. He won. He beat us all. But we really had a great time. And then I really wanted to acquire this game and couldn't get it and blah, blah, blah. Well, then we brought it back to the table on the first night. Our game group came back together, and Josiah and Todd and Barry and Jesse were there. And we played this game. And Jesse's a little bit more of an Ameritrash gamer, less of a Euro gamer. But all of us, when we were playing this game, just felt this is so much fun. It's so interesting. It so keeps us engaged. We just loved it. And everybody went away going, I want to play that again. And to me, that's always the signal that, hey, this is a good game. I think Jesse might have made a comment about it. I was not going to get into this game very excited, but I very much enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well said.
Yeah. That's a good mark of a game. If it's something you think, okay, but you actually walk away from the table going, wow, let's play it again. I can do it better. I can do it better.
Yeah, exactly. It's like that's and there's expansions in that box that I'd like to try out too and see how that changes. And sometimes just player count, playing at different player counts is kind of cool. Yeah.
It gives you a different feel. That's one of the problems that I've been feeling is we've been playing a lot of games just 2 players, and it's like this game could be so much better with just a 3rd player. It's like playing Tiny Towns. Having 2 players is back and forth, but having that 3rd player will just throw an extra spanner in the wrench. Or playing Agricola with a 3rd or 4th player, just diverse the game. You plan out your actions, what one do you want to take, but 2 other people jump in before you, and it's like those were the 2 actions that I wanted. I'm gonna have to rethink my strategy this turn. But playing 2, playing more is better. Yeah,
absolutely. So what game have you been playing?
Okay, I bought a brand new game, which is rare. It's been rare. I haven't bought many games this year, but I bought a game where you're building a theme park. And I'm not gonna
theme park.
Yeah, but it's not theme park. It's Meeple Land from Blue Orange Games.
Oh,
now it's very family-friendly board game where you are going to be building a theme park very simply from buying tiles. So on your turn, you can buy a tile and add it to your grid. And you can do this until you run out of money. Or you can do some advertising, which will allow you to place a few meeples at your front park entrance. Now, obviously, there's rules of how these tiles link together. The roads have all got to connect, but if you have roads which go into dead ends, that's going to give you negative points at the end of the game. And some of the rides attract different color meeples, and some of the rides need acquisitions, like maybe a burger stand next to that ride to allow you to get a meeple of a certain color there. And these meeples are going to give you points, and they're going to give you money as well. And also the different types of park attractions that there are going to give you points as well. You have to build a park with lots of different attractions. Otherwise, your park's not that interesting. So it's very simple. You either buy a ride or do some advertising, pick up some meeples. And at the end, once you've passed, you get to choose one of these buses, which has different colored meeple on it. And so you get to be the first one if you're the first one to pass, or if you're the last one to pass, you get whatever's left. And so this plays again into the strategy of the game. It's very light, very simple, and very quick. Plays in about 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Maybe a bit longer, but not much longer.
Easy to teach?
Very. I've just taught you the game.
Well, being's it's that family weight, friendly weight. I'm going to say you think it's good. I think you like Blue Orange games too. So
I do like Blue Orange games. I wouldn't say that this game has enough in it to keep me interested. We've played it about 3 times, and I'm already finding it repetitive. It needs an expansion. It needs something a bit more in it to convolute it a little bit and make it a bit more interesting. Because after a while, you once you've played it a couple of times, it's like, okay, yeah, this is simple, and it's just a case of how many players are playing and picking from the pool of tiles, which is going to make it interesting. But it's not so bad. It's very nice to look at. It was simpler than what I thought it was going to be. Let's put it that way. I thought it was going to be quite interesting, but it's actually just below the quite interesting bar.
Okay. Well, it's probably that entry level family weight.
It is. It is very much that. It's lighter strategically wise than, say, Ticket to Ride, because in Ticket to Ride you've got to think about the big picture all the time and where you're going and everything. But this, you're just waiting for the right tiles to come out after a certain time because you've got a certain amount of space. You can obviously buy some extra bits of space to make your park bigger, but it's just a case of just buying a tile which has a ride which you haven't got and making sure that the paths connect. Otherwise, you're going to lose points if they don't connect correctly.
So what do you think about the name?
Meeple Land. It's okay.
I've been listening to a few people that talk on podcasts. Tom Vassell, for one, hates it when they use these Meeple Land, Meeple in the name of the title.
All right. Yeah, Attack of the Meeples. And
Jamie Keggy was talking about it too with from the Secret Cabal Gaming podcast. Meeple War, loves the game, hates the name, and I kind of get that. I kind of like, yeah, they could do a little better. A lot of people don't even know what a meeple is.
Yeah, but how many podcasts have got meeple in the name, and how many podcasts have got dice in the name, and how many podcasts have got?
And that's where the conversation went. And then he said, yeah, I don't like that either. I don't like the meeple in the name of the media show either. But, what about yours? Nobody knows about a dice tower.
Yeah, I remember that conversation with my parents. Dad, I'd like a dice tower for Christmas. What's a dice tower? It's a tower that put dice in it. Oh.
Yeah, they don't get it until you show it. They get that glossy-eyed look over.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I got another game, and I tell you what, this game, my buddy Barry, he goes, this game checks all the boxes for me. And I went, after I played it, I went, this game checks the boxes for me too on the type of mechanisms that I enjoy. One of the things it has is deck building. Mm-hmm. I really like deck building. This game was on when we talked about our most anticipated games a few months ago.
Yeah.
It was a little hard to get for a while, but it has deck building. The game also has a little bit of an engine building type of mechanism with being able to draft cards from that deck building element. That has resource management and it has worker placement. Well, I love all those things. Cool. Deck building, worker placement, little deck engine building a little bit. Love it. Theme, pretty good theme. Yeah, I'm in. What game am I talking about?
Dune.
Imperium.
Yay.
Wow. Dune Imperium. You're on Arrakis, man. Look at this desert planet. And the spice must flow. And my head can't fit in the box.
That's going to be the new thing. Can I squeeze my head in the box? Yeah, that's going to be the question that you're going to be asking.
It has to be a thicker box.
Yeah. Anyway, let's cut away and look at some close-ups of the game.
There's some pictures. Okay, so you're seeing some of the different houses that are in the theme of the game or of the Dune universe. The theme is there. The art is there. If you know a little bit about the movie and a little bit about that, you're going to feel some of that. I didn't think like the theme was crazy awesome or anything, but it was there. What was really cool is there's these side faction pieces that you can move up in these different factions, and some of them actually will combo and make you feel very clever. And you kind of need to go up some of those to get extra victory points. The first person to 9 points, I believe it is, wins. And you also have these other spots. You can get an extra worker. You have to trade water is very important in this game. You're also collecting these cards so that your deck building engine works, but you got to be careful about trading your spice and trading your, what's that stuff called? Psyllium, to collect that to be able to go up and do different actions that
That's
you
a
may
silly
or may
name.
not want to do.
Very silly name. Psyllium.
Psyllium, yeah. I think that's what it's called. But I got to tell you, what do you think I think about this?
Well, it's got all your favorite mechanics, so I think you think it's good.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just I haven't played any games and everything is good. But we played Lost Ruins of Arnak, which we really enjoyed, and I feel is a good game. People were comparing Dune Imperium to Lost Ruins. I feel like they had some similar mechanisms in it, but totally different, in my opinion. I think the deck building was much richer in Dune Imperium.
Okay.
I very much enjoyed that. I very much enjoyed the drafting bank of different elements. The only thing that I would have said there is there's a few of them that they're kind of duplicates. You know, in most deck building, you've got your general pool where you can grab a few of those general titles. And if you have 8 Psyllium or whatever, you can, for buying, you can get one of those that'll give you a victory point. You know, that typical deck building general pool. But the cards, there would be a couple of them that maybe it would be a spice miner and it costs 4. And there would be several of them. And sometimes they would both come up in the deck. I don't really like that. I would prefer there be a little more variety that way and a little more uniqueness. But that was the only thing that I went, well, it's okay, it's fine. I love the fact that if you got one of the factions and then that would allow you to, when you played those other factions and it came in your deck building, there's just that excitement of pulling those cards. There's certain things that you can do to cull your deck, and that's important also, I think, as in any deck builder, because you get some of those dead cards. The first time I played it, I didn't do that very well. Second game, I was able to get rid of a couple and maybe not purchase as many, you know, because the game doesn't go on and on like where it's just deck building. There's a lot of things that you have to kind of do, and it's a little bit of a race to get to that top pile. I think the game is great.
Okay. Shame about the wooden cubes.
And of course, we tricked them out with all of our cool little tokens.
Oh, right, you got a token for spice, have you?
Kind of, yep.
Is it like it like a pouch of Burky Happy Mouth?
It actually is a pouch. It's this little pouch of spice from the Stonemeyer thing.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody at the table really enjoyed the game too. I think we played it at 4 players and at 3 players. And man, I'll play this game anytime. Really, really liked it.
Okay, cool. I'm actually looking forward to actually buying Runes of Arcanis.
Lost Ruins of Arnak.
Arnak. Oh, bloody hell.
Arnak.
Because again,
Kabuki
I like
she's
I like
a
those
Dune
mechanics.
nut. So
yeah,
sometimes
how
I
much
feel
of a
like
Dune nut? Has she
don't.
got all the films? Has she got all
one-
the books?
That one film with, you know, it's got Jean-Luc Picard in it. That's really good. But he was he looks like a pre-Borg in that movie.
Yeah, I don't have that one. I have a sci-fi TV movie one, which is like 6 hours long, which is not too bad.
Well, and the new one's coming out. The new movie. I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, I'm not excited. I'll see it when I see it. when it comes on streaming or whatever, I'll watch it.
Yeah,
But,
that's one I've been waiting for.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Thing is, I know what happens. It's like
So you have another game that you've been playing?
I have. It's a prototype. As I said, my friend David is going to be publishing a game, and that game is this game called Hereditary. Okay, this game is not out yet. They're planning a 2022 release. Again, they're not sure if it's just going to be direct to stores or if it's going to be a Kickstarter. But I'll give you a general overhaul of it. It's basically a deck of cards. There will be some figurines or standees that go with this game. And it's a cooperative game where you play a family in a post-apocalyptic world. And your family is made up of characters, and they are made up of cards, 3 cards. That's the injured side, but the other side is their normal side. Okay. And as you can see, there are 6 spaces on these cards, and that's the actions that you can do. You'll have 3 actions. You place a token to provide which action you want to do. So whether you want to look at something, talk to someone, manipulate something, or move. And again, for each card, you can equip an item as a weapon, or you can equip a piece of equipment. So you're limited on 3 weapons and 3 pieces of armor. And these weapons and armor can be upgraded as you go through the adventure, because you're going to be walking around a map which is made out of these cards. And this is a very, very storytelling adventure, basically. It's going to be broken down into chapters. Each chapter will have a start and a beginning, and it's how you get to the start and a beginning. They have a start and an end, and it's how you get to that end, which is going to be the interesting thing. So you can go this way, or you can go that way. And again, you're going to be in a wasteland, so you're going to be collecting rubbish, think Fallout. And then at the end of the chapter, you can just use that rubbish as currency to upgrade equipment or build equipment and to go on to the next chapter. So you're not actually going to die, even though you can get very seriously injured. But it's an adventure. So you're going to go chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. So there's that story element. But the great thing about it is not just the simple mechanics of placing tokens on the spaces of the actions of the character. There's this timeline. And again, the cards are going to come into play, and they're going to go onto this timeline. They'll either go before it, after it, underneath it, above it, and there'll either be conditions, there'll be enemy characters, or there'll be story elements, or there'll be cards that will be added to the map. And this is what I found really cool. The story element is like clues. You put a card into the timeline, and then when your piece moves onto that timeline, because you're going to be going, okay, right, go here, go here, go here, go here, and then go back to the beginning, go here, go here, go here, and back. So it's like the actions, the rounds. And some of the cards will tell you something. They'll tell you a story that, like, you can hear from the distance, revving motors. And it's when you go past that point, and then you go back to that card, and then you have to reveal it, you actually see what happens when that motor sound, what that motor sound is, and that will add it to the board, and the board will grow, and it will transform as well. So it's like destructive, or it's explorative. So there's this whole exploring thing with the map, which is done with cards, very much like Seventh Continent. But unlike Seventh Continent, it's a linear experience, but how you traverse that linear experience is down to you and your group. And as I said, it's cooperative, very simple mechanics, and this timeline thing is amazing because it just, the story happens, and you know when it's your turn, and you know when your actions are, and you know when the enemy's turns are and what they're going to do. So you can work as a team to strategize how you're going to move around the board to do the things that you want to do, and also try and survive without getting as much damage and collecting as much rubbish as you possibly can. But as you can tell, I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah.
it works really well.
So you think this is good?
This is a good game. It's a story game, so it's like a Chronicles of Crime. Once you've done it, it's like, or an escape room game. You know what's going to happen. You know where it's going to go. And again, I've only played the prototype demo scenario, so they might throw some extra things in there to spice it up a bit. Yeah, I really enjoyed it as the game mechanics, smooth, logical, very simple to teach, and the game teaches you as well, because the story cards explain things and say, okay, right now you can only do this, or now that this space is filled up with debris, you can't go there, or if you go there, you have to take a point or two of damage. So everything's on the cards. You don't really need a rule book apart from just a few basic things like that's movement points, that's an action which is natural. It doesn't cut your movement points off. So very, very self-explanatory. But
so what is the variability? I mean, how often is going to be a new experience each time you play it, or is this going to be a scenario-based game that you?
It's a scenario-based game, as I said. There's an A and a B. You go from point A to point B, and it just depends on what you do and how you do it. Will affect the outcome of the next story. So it's kind of a legacy, but it's a story. So you will start in one location, then you move to the next location, and move to the next location.
Okay.
But I don't know much about the stories. It's from 1 to 4. So as I said, it's a co-op. So even if there's you have 10 characters to control, and there's only one of you, then. But no, I think it's going to be 4 characters max. So if you play 4 players, there's 4 characters.
So does it give you a little bit of a role-playing feel, or?
Kind of, because the narration on the card comes from the thoughts of each character, and they're set characters. So when you're playing, obviously, if you're playing as Nadia, you need to read Nadia's thoughts, and so you read it out loud to the group. Nadia thinks that she shouldn't be wasting her time in the basement because the rats look very hungry. So that there is, this kind of really engrossing text, which kind of guides you and hints at what's going to happen, so you can prepare, hopefully, because that's one thing that I didn't do in the demo is I didn't prepare. And then all of a sudden, my characters took a lot of damage. They couldn't walk very far, but hey-ho. You live and you learn.
There you go. Well, I think we've got about 28 minutes left to wrap up the show, and we're going to move right into our Babble topic. But right before we do, we're going to do our other sponsor, which is Game Toppers. And Game Toppers is a sponsor because it pays for all the podcast stuff.
Yay!
And
This video was made possible with the help of Game Toppers. Upgrade your gaming experience with a Game Topper.
Hey, like I mentioned earlier, Game Toppers is already fulfilled most of its Wave 1 items. We've actually started sending out mats this week, which is about a month ahead of schedule. Our Wave 2 items are going to be coming in within, hopefully, by the middle of November, early December, and start to going out. There you're seeing our new Cthulhu mat and Volcano mat. Some fantastic, over 20 different styles of mat. The Great Wall from Vincent Dutrait. All of these different fantastic thematic game mats, premium walnut Game Topper rails, or a premium oak, or the standard. One of the things we just got in is the samples of our dice trays, which are really cool. This is a great big 14-inch component bank, and it has wells that have the little scoops. You'll see over to the right here, I have all the components sitting actually in the Stonemaier components. It has sleeve card slots here, dice trays. It has all these big wells. So all of your general components, and it's heavy enough form fitting that you can pass this around to the players. We're even looking at the future of getting a turntable for it, that type of thing. But you can still go in and late pledge for a game topper and get all of the special packages like the Scotland Yard bundle for the Watson, our number one selling topper. And basically, a game topper is going to convert your table into a high quality gaming experience and just up the level with our new dining cover kits, the new leg kits that is a full freestanding table, or it can just be a table. And cup holders, dice towers, tons of cool accessories, mat racks, all those type of things. So join us at GameToppersLLC.com, and you can still late pledge, and deliveries will be within just the next month or two. So with that being said, we're going to move on to the Babble talk of it.
And now it's time for the
Babble, 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 Burky and Badger's board game babble.
Rick Artloff is here, and he said he's got a Game Topper shipment coming on Friday. So shipping notifications have gone out. So tell us about our topic today, Sir Badger.
Hold on a sec. Glasses. Our Babble topic. Our Babble topic.
Talk it. Yeah, it's not a topic. We're talking it out.
Yes, we're talking about. Is
Out
about.
loud.
Our topic is about the world and how it has changed. Logistics and shipping crisis that we are experiencing. Burky will explain a little bit about his experiences and what he's hearing around the industry. Is that what you wanted me to read out?
Yeah, you did that
Okay.
really well. It's like,
Okay.
you're a good reader.
It's the new glasses.
I'm a good eater. My
yeah.
mom always said that. He's a good eater.
I'm a good not eater. I'm trying not to eat. I don't know if that made sense, but anyway, the logistics and the shipping crisis. Burky will
Sounds
explain
exciting.
a little bit about his experiences and what he is hearing in the industry.
Well, we wanted to have this show a couple weeks ago, and we had some scheduling conflicts and so forth. And it's starting to get a little bit older news, but ICV2 has several reports about this. And by now, most gamers that are connected to social media or connected into the hobby more have already heard a lot about this. But I thought it's a really interesting topic. I have some personal experience being an importer, and with most of our products are made in the United States, but I have a perspective of how this logistics crisis and global thing is going on, how that's affected us domestically, and also how it's affected us more globally when we're dealing with markets where we're exporting to Germany, but we're importing from Asia, things of that nature. ICV2 has talked about this and how this impacts the retail chain, how this impacts the end user, the customers. There's been several podcasts that have talked about this. Yesterday, while I was doing the floor, I actually listened to Marty and Tony from Rolling Dice and Taking Names. Caught up on a couple of their podcasts. Love these guys. They're great. But they had Scott Morris from GTS Distributing and Justin Jacobson on their show, who has Restoration Games, of course, a publisher. And they were talking about it, and they really went into in depth. I highly recommend that show, Rolling Dice and Taking Names, when Scott Morris and Justin Jacobson. It was just a couple episodes ago. Fantastic show, and would really give you a lot of different input. I think what is basically happening, most of the games, as most of you will know, that most of the games are produced in China or they're produced in Europe, particularly Germany, sometimes Poland. There's some production going there. Because of the pandemic and factory shortages of workers and raw materials has started to have a cascading effect on the shipping, the logistics of everything. One of the biggest issues has been container shortages. And you think, like, if a container was full of goods and it ships over to the United States, then you think that container maybe is going back. Well, that's not the case. Oftentimes those containers are offloaded and they're used domestically for other purposes. Well, this has caused a huge problem. And because of demand, it's like out of touch. What we started seeing, a normal shipment, for instance, there's 3 types of containers that you generally can get when you're shipping. You can get a 20-foot container, which is going to give you about 30 CBM, cubic space. You're going to get a 40-foot container, which gives you somewhere around 50 CBM, and a 40-foot high container, about 65 CBM, give or take how they pack it and blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to go into all the details of how a product gets built and then how it gets shipped. Most companies like myself use a logistics partner that actually go in and negotiate the shipping charge from the factory to get the product to the port, to get it packaged into the container, to get it shipped to the port that it's coming into in the United States, and then getting delivered to the door or our dock. There's a lot of things going on there. It's incredibly complicated. You have customs involved. You have bonding involved. You have different people that are involved in that whole thing. A logistics company, you're basically paying them to do all that for you. We use a company called Green International, and we've also used a company called OTX, which are both very good companies. Okay, that was just a little background, not trying to bore you with those kind of details. But in the past, generally a 40-foot high container and a 40-foot container about the same price to ship. I'm really boring you. I think this is boring for everybody, right? Normally, that 40-foot high container or a 40-foot generally shipped for about the same price. It was under $5,000, somewhere between $4,200. I paid as much as $5,800 one time. What has happened because of this demand, the shipping, not enough containers, the high demand, not enough boats, problems where the Suez Canal was blocked. It delayed things for like 11 days. The problems that we are having domestically, offloading the product into our ports, particularly California, is just a huge nightmare right now. Last report, there was 68 boats sitting outside of the docks, waiting to offload. Wow. Unprecedented. Now, that same container that used to cost about $5,000 I've heard reports of up to $35,000.
Wow, that's a huge increase.
Crazy. It's alarming and unsustainable. So that if it doesn't change, I mean, a lot of things will change. That's really the bottom line on that. We had a shipment of most of our product for game toppers is made in the United States. The aluminum is sourced out of Michigan. The product is built right in Minnesota. Our mold injected products come out of Michigan and Wisconsin. So we're mostly domestic. But our game mats and our storage bags, which we can't have done cost effectively and even production wise in the United States, comes from Asia. We had 3 containers of product ordered prior to the Kickstarter so that we could get ahead of the curve to offer some of that wave 1 fulfillment. By the time the Kickstarter was ended, all of a sudden we started getting inklings that things were going up. One container came in, cost me $8,000. Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't like that. That was an extra $3,000, but I could live with it. By the time our other products started to we had 3 container loads full. Guess what the product went up to?
18.
It actually went up to each. We had 3 40-foot refrigerator containers that were non-working, they called them. So they didn't carry as much space, but we had to get 3 of them. We got each one for $10,000. The problem is we had to bring it into Savannah. Then it had to be offloaded and put onto 2 semi trucks. Both of those trucks cost us almost $5,000 each. It cost us another $6,000 to consolidate the whole order. The containers got stuck at the yard for 3 days, cost another $3,000. When it was all said and done, those three, which normally would have cost us maybe $15,000 to $18,000, cost us over $54,000.
That's nasty increase.
Crazy. So this isn't about complaining. I'm just kind of giving you an idea of what's happening. Well, what does that mean to the customers? How does this affect the publishers?
It means that the Chinese are not buying American board games, but it's the Americans buying Chinese board games. Because the thing that I got out of that is all the crates are coming from China over to America, but you're not sending them back. Now, I don't know if that's to do with the fact that China is now no longer accepting the containers back with the rubbish, because there was that a while ago. Americans were putting all their rubbish in there and sending it to China for China to sort out and recycle, which was crazy. Or if the Americans are actually doing something with the containers. Is it a conspiracy plot? They're deliberately keeping the containers to drive up the prices to make the Chinese pay to make their own containers.
So yeah, we're making ice houses out of them.
Yeah, I know.
So,
yeah,
no, a lot of companies actually do buy these containers for extra storage space for their factories and different things. So you're seeing a pretty good aftermarket. You can buy one of these containers. I've seen them from $3,000 to $6,000, where you can just buy them for extra storage. We've actually contemplated buying a container in China, and then just instead, when they offload it, we actually keep it. And there might be some benefit to do that. So we're exploring some ideas. But I think the export, import, political side of all that kind of stuff, we definitely have a trade deficit, because consumer goods are primarily, we just have a ton of product coming from Asia. And this has happened over many years, 20, 25 years. There's a very interesting report of even back in the 1960s when the Toyota model took over, where people started implementing just-in-time inventory practices, how this actually affected the global marketing. And you started seeing about 15, 20 years ago, factories going to Mexico and going to Asia and India and things of that because of the labor costs. And that had a cascading effect to the place where we do not have capacity for any of these products to start up. People say, why don't you just build it in America then? Well, it's not so easy. We don't have the infrastructure. That's been gone for a while. We don't have the workforce. The cost of our workforce is much higher than in some of these other countries. And that's a whole nother issue. But the reality is that even with these higher shipping costs, it's still cheaper. One of the things when we talk about how does this affect the consumer, for us, we went to Kickstarter. We did our best to build in a little bit of fluff for these things that you can't really forecast very well. But I put in a little bit for fluctuations in currency, because that can cost me money. So I'm trying to cover all my bases. But there was no way to really foresee this. You had to be pretty clairvoyant to see what happened. We were all taken back by this. The entire hobby, the entire global market has been affected. What is happening out there now is you're seeing the cost of goods going up. You're hearing the cost of, if you take a board game and you can get that board game produced for $5, and now it used to cost you $1 to ship it, and now it's costing $5 to ship it, you have as much cost in the shipping as you actually do the actual cost of goods. Well, for every dollar they talk about from going from distribution to actually the retailer, they talk about that $1 being a $10 increment. $5 game and then shipping and all the stuff would be a $40 game. All of a sudden now that goes to $10. All of a sudden that becomes an $80, $90 game, because of how that multiplies. You'd think you just, cost me extra $5. You just add $5 shipping. No, it just doesn't work that way because there's a cumulative effect with everybody getting in the pie. Publishers, larger publishers have been able to go, okay, we hope that this pricing pressure will come down. We hope that capacity will regain. The ports will catch up at some point, that the prices will go down. But generally, when prices go up, they generally don't go down that much. It can happen. We had $5 gasoline here just not that long ago, and it went back down to the $2, $2.25 range. Now we're seeing it go up to about $3. Well, we'll see. It's a global market, so we'll see. Have you noticed or heard much about this where you're at overseas, Barry?
Yeah, I've heard quite a bit about it. Again, I've been updated by Kickstarter emails saying, the game is coming. We know we promised it next month, but because of this problem, it's been delayed. Europe in general seems to be running well. Unfortunately, England not so well because of Brexit. On top of the COVID, that's
a whole nother
stifled
thing.
things. Yeah, that's a whole nother kettle of fish. So yeah, a lot of things are not getting moved around there due to the fact that if you didn't have an English passport, you had to leave the country. And when you did, that was a lot of the drivers, lorry drivers. So they've had fuel problems and obviously lots of other transportation problems of bringing goods in as well as taking goods out. But no, Europe hasn't really been affected. We hear on the news that Christmas won't be the same because there's going to be a shortage of toys. But
because we're actually hitting peak season now, and the demand is still pent up. This is interesting, but I just recently got a report that the entire country in China, they shut the government shut down the power grid for the factories there's only certain smaller windows of time, like 8 hours, where they were able to operate their factories. And this caused a slowdown in manufacturing. And what is the cumulative effect? My logistics company said that they're hoping that might even help them clear some of the congestion that's happening at the ports there. There was one report, this was about a month and a half ago, but that they had like 12 miles of trucks waiting to get into the ports to offload the product there.
Yeah, seen that.
Well, though that's a crazy situation. And then if they have a COVID outbreak and it shuts down for a certain period of time, we had that happen at the Shenzhen port, and that affected that. Likewise, our port capacity has just highly constrained. They're having troubles with workers. The Los Angeles port, like I said, right now is just a real nightmare. They're just unable to get things through. Philip Millman makes a super good point here. Not only the ports, but the storage facilities are full too. Companies, when they have to store your product because they're waiting for a truck to come and pick it up, they're going to charge that customer, whose ever container it is, what are called drayage fees. These things can be up to like $1,000 a day for a container. So if it sits there for 3 days, this is what happened to us down in Savannah. LA has 500 plus ships waiting to unload, Philman says. So this has changed that report. I haven't heard that high of a report. Wow. There's an app that you can actually check. They mentioned it the other day on the Rolling Dice and Taking Names podcast, where you can actually see all of the ships at dock. Savannah, Georgia has a big port. New York has a port. Tacoma, Washington has a big port. There's a port in Galveston in Texas. There's another big port in Vancouver. And all of these places are having, my logistics partner said that in Seattle, they had a container sitting out at sea for 2 weeks before it could get to port.
Yeah.
So not only does it cause price increases, it also causes delays in the product. And there's really nothing you can do about it.
No.
I mean, you pay it and you wait. And it's kind of the way it is. So there's a lot of pressure on publishers, a lot of pressure to keep their business models working so that they're profitable, knowing what they can, how much they can go up. But, you know, board game prices have not gone up much over the last decade.
No, but in a way they have. I mean, if you look at the latest Descent game, that's quite a price to pay, like 120, 130 euros for a board game.
Yeah, that's a big miniatures game, and compared to the original Descent, right? With more
compared to the original, but compared to the original Descent, you still got the same amount of components and bits and bobs, and prices have, I would say, they have gone up, but that's only from my perspective of what I've seen. But you know, at this point, this should be a warning call that we need to put in some protocols to not be too dependent on, you know, other countries. It's like when I was talking to David about his game, Hereditary. It's how is he going to produce it? Is he going to produce it in China? Is he going to produce it here? And it's a card game. Why not produce it here? It'd be cheaper. Well, in a way, it'll be cheaper because, number one, you won't have to pay so much in transport, but it might be more expensive because the manpower that is used to produce it is a bit more expensive because the cost of living here is a bit more expensive. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you've got no delay. Then you can visit the warehouse when you want. You can, you know, say I need 5,000 copies, and then 3 weeks later you've got them copies ready for you. And again, it promotes the industry in your own country, which is something that we've seen in the farming community as well. We've seen farmers get frustrated that another country 6 million miles away is selling their tomatoes, but not your local farmers' tomatoes. And just a case of they can sell them cheaper, but you know, it drains from your economy, and it drains from your country's, you know, strength, so to speak. And I think that's why America's keeping all those containers.
Well, Phillips, I'm sorry, he meant 50. I thought 500. That sounds right, but he said the number is actually 153, and including 60 that are loading and unloading. Nonetheless, it's just it is a problem, and a lot of people say, well, what do we do about it then? Okay, here's a problem, but how do we fix it? Well, it's just going to take some time for it.
It's going to take a long time. Yeah.
And that's another topic that I want to actually talk about for a sec. But when we're talking about Rob McBride's there. All right, from Scyther Gaming. And you know, here's a small publisher who developed this fantastic game called Over Battle. Okay,
big game,
big game, miniatures. I mean, it's got 600 million pieces in it. I mean, and really cool pieces. But this is this great big honking box, heavy capacity. How many you could actually get on a container? And he says, I have 2 sets of inventory. Left China 3 weeks apart. The second shipment has arrived Chicago today. First, while my original shipping is still offshore in LA docks now for 3 weeks, waiting for offloading. That's so frustrating as a publisher. Now, Rob, you know, he's done an amazing job with this game. If you have any chance to take a look at Over Battle, please do. It's really something. But here's a small publisher, and it took so long to develop the game and then produce the game, and then all of a sudden this crisis hits. Well, you charged everybody, you know, a year ago for the game, and now it's all of a sudden you've got this extra cost that's like double of what it cost you to produce the game. And, can you go back to the customer and ask them, hey, can you help us out? We're really having a hard time here. Well, these smaller publishers like this is a big hit.
Yeah.
Some can manage Kickstarter. There's a little more profitability than going through the distribution channel, but that's a tough pill to swallow, especially on a low production run. If say you're only doing 1,000 or 3,000 copies.
I'm sure Rob can drive out to LA and get in his cruise boat and just drive up to the container
yacht.
boat. Yeah, just get in his yacht. Yeah, go up there and just go, hey, excuse me, I've got my games in there. I'm just going to load them onto my boat and distribute. I'm going to post them by hand to all my backers.
And he's got a crane on his yacht where he just oh, that's not the right container. Put that in the machine.
I need another dime to put in the machine.
It's like one of those machines. Yeah, he's trying to get the fluffy animal, but
the claw machine.
No, excuse me. It's an amazing new world we're living in, and the timing of things. That one thing that they really made. Trent Tuner's here. Hey, Trent, good to see you, buddy. The timing of how long it's going to take. A lot of people were saying, hey, this is going to mellow out by Chinese New Year. I saw something that Stefan Brachot from Yellow Games mentioned in one of his newsletters, a blog that he was writing for Gamma. He doesn't feel this is going to get better until 2023. And there's I'm going
to say 2067. It's not going to get better until then.
Well, I think it will work itself out because that's how the market works.
And that's how humans work as well.
Yeah, demand. People are going to find a way, and it's like nature, right? It's like chaos theory. We're gonna find a way to fix this. And one of the things that Marty and Tony and Scott Morris, particularly from GTS, was talking about, he said the publishers are going to start making smaller footprint boxes.
Yeah,
and he brought up the topic of Splendor. Splendor, that box is mostly air.
Yeah.
You can fit that in that whole game into a Codenames box, but it doesn't have the shelf presence. It doesn't have all that they're going for. But if it costs so much, if you can ship 10,000 games instead of 3,000 games on the container, I mean, Rob would love to be able to fit Over Battle in a Codenames box.
Yeah, he's got an inflatable version. You have to blow up all the pieces. There you go. There's one soldier.
Spaceship.
Yeah, spaceship.
Well, other people said, well, why don't we just make these in the United States? Well, because there's nobody really doing it. There's a couple people that can make cards, and those companies, everybody has that same thought. Well, those companies are super booked. I heard a company in Germany, one of the main manufacturers, and I won't mention the name just because I don't want to give any information that may not be exactly factual. But from what I've heard and from credible people that do business with this company, that they are so backlogged that they cannot take a new game project until next June. Because of everything that's in the pipeline right now. Because people are going, well, maybe I'll just have it made in Germany for European distribution and bypass the whole Asia problem.
Yeah. Well, another thing with Germany is recently on the news they've deforestation. They've cut down more trees than they normally should have cut down, and that's going to have a supply effect, as well as we've been hearing in France that Belgium logging companies have been illegally cutting trees down in France, obviously because the demand. So
wow,
trees are going to be a problem, and they're going to affect this as well. So I mean, these kind of like chains, one chain breaks and it causes something else later on down the chain to deform, either become weaker or become stronger or become too you know, and we're going to have this on and on. It starts with the containers, and then it's going to be, oh, we haven't got the resources for that, and everything's going to knock on, and it's going to. Well, I hope it doesn't affect the environment too much, but
the comment that Marty and Tony had made about this too is that they said, well, why don't people move towards European? Because like you said, right now it's not having a big effect, but maybe at Christmas it might have a little bit. Yeah. They're actually saying that that everything we're dealing with in the United States is now moving right into Europe. Europe will be experiencing a delayed effect of the exact same problem we're having, and it won't be very long down the road. And that's because of the consumer demand that's coming from Europe, also from Asia countries. So it's an issue. I think at some point companies are going. A lot of the big companies, for instance, like Costco, Walmart. There was another big company, Home Depot. They're actually leasing boats for many years just to actually to make sure that they have their own supply line chain and not having to go to the free market to grab container shipments. Well, at that point, you're going to start seeing there's going to be a huge influx of manufacturing of boats, manufacturing of containers, infrastructure going into place to handle the demand. Yeah. And then once they get up there, if demand lessens, all of a sudden there's going to be a glut of all this stuff, and you're going to see those prices come down. That's just typical supply and demand economics.
Yeah. That was what I was getting at earlier, but you seem to have said it eloquently and more precisely.
Well, and we'll see how long it's going to actually take. I think in the near term, like for us, we absorbed the cost of that. And I didn't feel right about going back to my backers and say, hey, listen, can everybody give me an extra $50? Because I just got nailed for another $35,000. I felt like my backers put their trust in me. It's not my fault, but it's my responsibility. I had a ton of my backers. I was very transparent with what was happening. And they said, hey, we'll be happy to pay extra, make a tip jar or something. And it's like, I don't even know how to do that after the fact. And it would be really super complicated to manually do that for every backer and which ones would want to. And even if they did, just out of their kindness, I didn't feel right about it. So we just made the decision, hey, this is our responsibility. But we feel this year that our costs will be $100,000 more than we expected, which means that I'm not going to be able to bring on that employee that I was hoping to bring on. And so that has an effect on how you're able to do business, what you're going to do the next go round. And ultimately, businesses are just going to have to increase their prices to manage those costs. It's just the way it is. So I think we're going to see some inflation for a while. Yeah.
Or there might be some cost cutting somewhere that you cut corners off of things just to bring things around again. So it's a very, very delicate scale to balance. Do you want to see that?
There you go. Rob McBride, Kabuki Kid just said goodbye. Thanks for joining us, Kabuki. Rob McBride says, in-country production addresses availability, however, not really the new cost. That's the issue. Making local costs so much more than offshore production, the offset against shipping difference is tough to sink. Doesn't lower the cost to the buyer, really, unfortunately. And that's the truth. I'll give you an example. Our dining cover, we're having horrible times sourcing the double resin MDF. This is a special MDF that is not like the stuff you buy at Home Depot that gets powder coated for these beautiful dining covers that we use to make our mat racks. Our companies that have quoted it, they're on allocation. They can't even get the product. And a lot of this product came from Canada. Well, because of COVID, because of shipping constraints, because of availability, all of that kind of stuff. That caused a problem. Okay, so let's go over to Asia and let's get the same product. Well, I can buy it for about a third of what it costs me to make it domestically. And then if I have to pay that same cost to ship it, say it costs me as much to ship it as the product cost, I'm still a third less than building it domestically. So people say, well, just buy it domestically. Well, yeah, you might be able to cut out some of the delay issues, but your prices are going to be higher. And consumers don't like that. They don't want to go to Walmart and get those sweatpants that they normally get for $10 and have to pay $25 for them because they were built in the United States.
Instead of a sweatshop.
And I mean, there's all kinds of human rights issues and all that kind of stuff. That's a whole nother topic. But that seriously is the reality of our global economy right now.
Yeah.
And there's just, it blows my mind that there's so much demand during this time.
People got nothing better to do. That's all it is. And a lot of people are not working, and a lot of people are not refusing to work due to the fact that they're either worried about the pandemic or they're happy on the benefits that they're getting. They're getting paid more than what they would be if they were working, and so they have time to do nothing apart from spend money and insult people on media. So it's the sad world we live in.
Well, it's I'm optimistic that things are going to get better. I'm optimistic that the market will adjust and people will become creative, find new ways to solve these problems. Necessity
3D
is the mother of all inventions, right? Yeah, a lot of people, they even talked about that. Some people are producing
build your own board game. You got a 3D printer and a normal printer. There you go. Cards and your minis done.
Well, that's living in the new world. There's just tons of issues. Domestically, we have trucking issues. Costs have gone, tripled for trucking domestically. And again, that's because of availability. But eventually that will work itself out, I think, and things will change. But it's going to take some time. So I would recommend everyone to just, if you are waiting for a Kickstarter, you're waiting for something, be very patient, be very kind with the publishers. This has seriously affected their ability, and their staff is wore out. They're burnt out trying to deal with all these problems too. It's even our logistic partners. I'm very careful not to ride them too hard because they can't do anything about it either. And we all do what we can to manage our business and take care of it, but let's remember to be kind to one another because it's a tough time out there for folks.
Yeah, and so far from what I've seen from the publishers, they are all doing a good job at communicating and also not passing that extra cost onto their customers. So that's always great.
I wouldn't blame any of them if they did, because you got to stay in business, bottom line. And some have better wherewithal to do that than others.
Yeah.
And so we probably will see some constriction in the amount of publishers. And maybe that's a little bit good that there's not, they actually talked about that. There was at a time, some companies would produce 20 games a year, just see which one sticks. And maybe now, like AEG went to, hey, we're just going to produce a few really good games each year and start to see that type of effect, which will cut down on all the fluff and demand, that way.
Yeah, that's true. Because, I mean, if production costs are cheap, then, you're going to, I'll produce that game, which is like, call it something else.
Yep.
And then we'll see less of those kind of word games or trick-taking games or whatever. Those was it Crimes Against Humanity games? We'll see less of them because people aren't going to just spend extra money to produce them because it costs too much. Let's produce a good game which sticks out and makes us money.
Well, and I'd love to see that happen actually too, because it seems like there's just too many look-alike games and all that. But that's another topic. Well, bottom line, that's a really brief little 30 minutes talking about shipping crisis and what's actually happening and how we're trying to fix it, how we're trying to modulate and be flexible and do what we can to work around it. But that podcast from Rolling Dice and Taking Names with Marty and Tony and Scott Morris and Justin Jacobson. Well, if you want to learn a little bit more about that, I thought it was really insightful. There's a lot of other information out there that you can see that this is a real thing. People aren't just trying to talk, make an excuse. This is a real deal.
It's a conspiracy.
Well, some people probably are milking it. I wouldn't put that past some. But,
the container conspiracy.
Because these shipping companies are making record profits now too. So, but that means business is up. But that nonetheless, I hope this was interesting. I don't know if we did a great job talking about it, but at least we're talking about it. And that's about that. I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, these shipping companies are investing in heavily armored boats with guns so they can fight off the pirates.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the other issues where you've got delays and pirates and customs, and I mean, there's VAT regulations. I mean, there's just a potload of very complex things going on.
Do you remember when we just used to get some stones together and just bang them to create a fire and then sit there and look at the stars? And
that's what my kid says. They go, Dad, how did it feel to develop fire? You get those birthday cards, Dad is older than dirt. Dad is older than the wheel.
Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely.
Yeah. I'm glad that you figured out how to use scissors up here, but not down here.
Well, we want to thank everyone for joining us for this Burky and Badger board game babble. We're going to get back and we're going to do some more of our Woods of Evergreen segments where we talk about older games. And we're also going to have more Burky and Badger board game babble shows. We're going to make sure that we have these out regularly. Stay tuned to the Burky and Badger board game babble Facebook page, the Burky and Badger Twitter account, or you can go to Board Games Everybody Should, Barry's website.
.com
Board Game Theater.
That's the one. I keep thinking Game Toppers for some strange reason. I don't know why.
We should put a link on the Game Toppers page too. Check out Burky and Badger. We're not hard to find. You can go to Libsyn and you can listen to our older episodes. And this is episode 87.
Yep.
Or 88.
87.
You think we can make 100?
Yeah.
By next year, we'll have 100 episodes and we'll have a great big party.
Yes.
And Essen. We'll have it at Essen.
Yeah, but that'll be in the next show.
Party.
Yeah.
Thank you to our sponsors, Arcane Wonders. They've been so fantabulous. Check out arcanewonders.com, and you can still late pledge and get a game topper or some thematic game mats or a whole bunch of cool accessories to upgrade every game you play at GameToppersLLC.com. And with that, send us on out, Barry.
We're so glad we had this time together. Now it's time to go. It won't be long until we have another show. So keep us in mind, get online. Burky and Badger will be back in no time.
Woo!